Judy McDonald. I'll be your host today. My company is Sweet Success Lifestyle Transformations. I am a certified health coach specializing in cellular nutrition that improves well-being. I help people feel better, look better, move better, live longer, and have more fun, which is a lot of fun for me. My special guest today is Costa Lovu. Hi, Costa.
Hi, Judy. Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good, thanks. Looking
Thank you
forward
for
to
joining us
yeah,
too.
thank you.
Costa owns and operates Best Option Health Services, a company that provides a broad range of support and services to individuals, families, and corporations that include holistic counseling, aftercare solutions, and companionship. They offer a program called Better at Home, which allow people to have their needs met while being cared for at home as opposed to in the hospital. Best Option coordinates support services for caregivers to ensure that their loved ones are safe while giving the caregiver time to re-energize. Costa has worked in the support field as a senior primary nurse for over 15 years and is a chairperson for a group called Dual Diagnosis Network, a group of frontline workers helping people who are struggling with substance abuse and mental health challenges. He resides in Edmonton with his wife Bea and their 3 children. In his leisure time, Costa enjoys spending time with family, playing soccer, going on nurture walks, and having a great laugh. And who doesn't like that? Welcome, Costa.
Thank you.
Today's topic is caregiving in the era of COVID-19 and beyond. Parts of today's webinar will deliver good reminders to us all. Parts will be interactive, and all of it will be informative. Please use the chat during the interactive part of the presentation for any questions that you might have. So, Rosalind Carter, wife of former President Jimmy Carter, once said, "There are only 4 kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, and those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers." I thought that was very profound.
Wow.
And it's interesting to know that the 2018 statistics in Canada were 1 in 4 Canadians aged 15 years or older provided care to a family member or a friend with long-term physical or mental disability. Wow, 15 years old. How young is that? So, Costa, from what you're experiencing now and what you're seeing out there, how has caregivers been impacted during this pandemic?
Thank you, Judy. Actually, thank you for that introduction. Really appreciate that. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming through. The impact of COVID during this time, Judy, has been really it's been really negatively impacting the caregivers, and people becoming really stressed, and they are experiencing a lot of challenges. And I'll cover that actually in one of the slides in the presentation about how the caregivers have been stretched during this time. So it is a time when caregivers really need to be cared for as well. So we'll be covering that today and look at what is going on as far as caregiving is concerned.
Mm. So start by telling us a bit about yourself.
All right, thank you for that. And as Judy has mentioned, my name is Costa, and I am the founder and CEO of Best Option Health Services. And the company provides counseling services and also in-home care. I've got a master's degree in health promotion and public health, and also I've got a bachelor's honors degree in mental health nursing. And I've done leadership, postgraduate leadership, and I've put all those credentials together. But what is really the main achievement for me is my family, and also connecting with other families and positively impacting people and making sure that they realize their fullest potential. That's what really drives me. And today I would like us to cover a topic that is very important to us: stress especially for the caregivers in this COVID-19 era. So without further ado, we're just going to go straight to our presentation here. Century challenges, and we know that the greatest challenge really is COVID-19, and people are asking a lot of questions about this global pandemic. We are now human beings that are advised to social distance, stay away from each other, which is something that we were not really used to. But due to the COVID-19, we are supposed to social distance. As human beings, we are relational and social creatures. For us to self-isolate is something that is quite overwhelming for us. But the good thing, at least, is that we now have the vaccine, and it's being rolled out quite extensively by the government and the public health institutions. So we are hoping that we will nip this in the bud and be able to get back to socializing again. So really looking forward to that. The mask these days is a very common feature. We always putting on masks and always covering our mouths and making sure that we are protected. So caregiving in the era of COVID-19. What we'll cover today is definition of stress. We'll look at the strategies to reduce stress, and we'll also look at caregiver stress in particular. And also we'll look at how to assess and manage your emotional health. And also in the webinar today, we'll cover available support for stress management. We'll also look at where you can get support as a caregiver and be able to utilize that support. So really, to define stress, it is feeling overwhelmed or unable to cope with a lot of pressures that we experience in life. So the reaction that people may have when presented with demands, pressures, challenges that do not really match our knowledge and abilities. And that ends up affecting our activities of daily living. So stress really is about being unable to cope with the challenges that you face, the pressures that you face, the demands that you face. That then causes you to be stressed. And also, we need to look at the challenge that we're facing right now is that over 60% of family caregivers, they stopped visiting their loved ones during this COVID-19 era. And this has actually increased the anxiety and stress for carers and for those that are cared for those that are supported. So we find ourselves in a situation where we are isolated from each other, and also sedentary lifestyle has increased, and we are increasingly getting disconnected because of obviously COVID-19 restrictions, and that has been quite overwhelming for everyone. Before the pandemic, it's really interesting to note that before the pandemic, social activities, cognitive and physical activity, these were actually the mainstay interventions for adults, both in hospital and in community settings. So now it is really difficult to coordinate all that because of the logistical challenges of social distancing and not able to visit our loved ones or to coordinate activities. So it is really becoming quite stressful for everyone. One thing that I would like us to note here in this webinar is that if you are a carer, one thing that is very important for us to do is to practice what we call self-care, to practice what we really encourage, because you cannot serve from an empty cup. So you need to first of all really attend to yourself and make sure that you have got the knowledge, the resources, the support, so that you can effectively care for someone else. I'd like us to look at stress as a balloon, right? On the right-hand side there, let's look at that stress. There's that man that is holding a pin. And if you look at your balloon, the bottom part has got a string. So really what we would like to do is to make sure that when we're dealing with stress, we don't burst the balloon. We release pressure. So it's about reducing pressure, not bursting the balloon. So I would like us to really go with that kind of approach. So what are the signs that one needs to look at for for stress? When you become constantly worried and feeling overwhelmed, those are signs, those are telltale signs of stress. And you're becoming increasingly irritable and angry, then those are the signs. The lack of sleep or too much of sleep, constant headaches, and migraines, losing interest in activities of daily living, weight gain or weight loss. All these are signs that the balloon has been inflated a lot. So we look at someone becoming helpless or hopeless. All these are signs of stress. Altered appetite. When you start experiencing all those things, these are telltale signs. You're feeling, you feel you want to hurt someone or to hurt yourself. This is actually the extreme sign of feeling stressed. And we really need to release the pressure from that balloon before things escalate to a point where you're feeling like hurting yourself or hurting someone. So that's the aim there, for us to make sure that we reduce the stress and make sure that we don't get overwhelmed in this way. So when it comes to stress management, there isn't anything like getting rid of stress. We reduce stress, we don't get rid of it altogether. So it's about risk mitigation, reducing stress, not really getting rid of it. Evidence suggests that a little bit of stress will help us to achieve certain goals. When you are about to travel, you really become stressed. You're packing, you're doing all those things. Or maybe if you're about to write an exam, you study a lot, it becomes stress. You need a little bit of stress for you to achieve. So just like this picture here, we need a bit of pressure for our balloons to float. Because if there is no stress, the picture on the left-hand side, the extreme left, that's not going to float. But you need a little bit of pressure in your balloon so that you can float, so that you can function. But we don't want too much of it, because too much of it, it will cause the balloon to burst. And once it bursts, it's really, it's impossible to repair it. So that's the picture that I would like us to paint about stress. It's about stress reduction, not stress eradication. So care stress management, there are a number of things that we can do for us to manage stress. And the first one actually that I thought of is communication. We look at communication and think that it's not a way of managing stress, but it plays a pivotal role, because when you are caring for someone, what I'll advise is that you need to sit down with the person that you're caring for and have a dialogue, have a conversation, identify the areas that you need to be focusing on so that you can care for them effectively, and so that they can also feel they are supported and cared for. So communication is key in care stress management. So when you communicate, you'll then plan. You'll plan what they would like to do, how they would like to do it, when they would like to do it, looking at the activities. So you communicate, you plan, and then you execute your strategy, because there's been a mutual agreement on what needs to be done. Communication is key in caregiving and in reducing stress. And once there is communication, planning, execution, we make sure that we sustain what has been put in place. Sustainability is key, because once that is not done, we'll realize that people will think, they're being betrayed, or you're not owning up to what you've agreed. So that's what we need to look at, and support becomes complete in that way. Here is a picture here of the king of the jungle. There's something that I would like us to really note here. So that's a lion is sleeping beautifully, is resting there. We know that the lion is the king of the jungle, but the lion actually sleeps for 16 to 20 hours a day, all right? It sleeps during the day for a long time. So irregardless of the lion sleeping for a long period of time, it doesn't change the lion's status. It still remains the king of the jungle. And it's still able to accomplish its goals. It's still able to hunt and able to, sustain itself. But it sleeps for 16 to 20 hours a day. I'm not encouraging us to sleep, of course, for 16 to 20 hours. I mean, we wouldn't really be able to do anything, But what I'm trying to paint here is that status does not change because you rested. We always think that if you don't sleep a lot, you'll accomplish a lot of things. It doesn't happen that way. Actually, to the contrary, if you give yourself sufficient rest, sufficient sleep, you'll be able to accomplish a number of things. So the average sleep for us, for human beings, we're not like lions, 7 to 9 hours, it's what is recommended. And of course, people have got some other challenges and some other, illnesses and underlying symptoms, and they struggle to sleep. But that's the average. 7 to 9 hours is really good for you to sleep and rest. Because if you don't do that, then the body starts to, decline. The body function starts to decline, and you need to really have some rest. You don't take a break because you have finished your work, but you take a break because you want to finish your work. That's a way of mitigating stress. So what we usually do is that we give ourselves tasks, responsibilities, and jobs to carry out. And we just, lock ourselves in that situation, and we say, until I finish what I'm doing, I'm not going to take a break. But you take a break because you don't take a break because you've finished your work. You take a break because you would like to finish your work. Okay. Exercise is another way of mitigating stress. 150 minutes per week is what is recommended, and we have got 24 hours a day. Just 30 minutes per day will be good for you. And you don't have to be lifting heavy weights, just walking, enjoying the sunshine, enjoying fresh air, and walking is, one of the really effective ways of exercising. And this will actually help you to reduce, premature death, heart disease, stroke, osteoporosis, obesity. So walking and exercise will help you to reduce those things. And exercise also, it increases blood circulation and oxygen distribution, because when your heart is pumping and oxygenated blood is distributed to the rest of the body organs, and it helps your body organs to function and receive actually some oxygen. It lowers high blood pressure, and these are the benefits of exercise. And it also releases those feel-good chemicals called endorphins. And when they bind with the brain receptors, they give you that feel-good factor after you've exercised, and you feel really good about yourself. And of course, exercise, it will strengthen your muscles, and you're not susceptible to injuries. Also, exercise will help you to alleviate the sedentary lifestyle, which means not really effectively engaging in activities of daily living. And also, it will reduce the risk of you developing deep vein thrombosis. So deep vein thrombosis, it usually affects your legs, and you develop some blood clots because of lack of mobility. And then when the blood clots have been developed, they can really have disastrous effects in you, because if the blood has got the clots, you can have stroke, you can have other diseases that are quite life-threatening. The other thing that we need to incorporate in our way of mitigating stress and reducing stress is hydration. These are the things that God has blessed us with. For those of you that are religious, we have got water. Hydration, keeping yourself hydrated is really key. Water is the best way to hydrate yourself. Just a pure liquid. It's really good. So about 3.7 liters of water for adults per day. It's good enough. And just making sure that by drinking water, you're giving your organs, ability to function optimally, because digestion, circulation, all these body activities, they require some water for them to happen very well. And there's also elimination. When you are sweating, I've recommended that you do some exercise. You will lose water that way through sweating, and also bowel movements and urine. You lose water that way. So you need to really replenish it so that you don't become dehydrated. I know that people have got some underlying illnesses, and your intake of water might be compromised by that. So I would strongly advise that you consult your health professional, your family doctor, to make sure that you don't just drink a lot of water when your body cannot sustain those amounts there. So I will advise people to consult with their health professional on those advices there. Right, these are the Canada's New Food Guide. I don't know, for those that are familiar with the older one, it was slightly different from the one that is currently recommended. So diet is another area that we really need to focus on if we are to reduce the stress, because all these things are done in collaboration. You exercise, you hydrate yourself, you also look at your diet. Maybe if people can just interact with me here, just to let me know what you see in this picture here.
Yeah, so Costa asked me this question too, and it took me a minute. But just think of the picture of the Canada Food Guide and the plate and what it used to look like. Do you notice anything different now? Just put it in the chat box.
That'll be great. I just want to see if you notice anything here in this plate. There's something that is quite fascinating that is on this plate.
Well, we don't have many chatters. Do we give the answer away or what?
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so we can just give the answer away here. So if you look at the left-hand side of the plate, you'll realize that there is a line that divides. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, one person said no meat.
Oh, okay.
Oh, more veggies and fruits.
Okay. All right. Those are good observations there. All right. Okay. Yeah, that is actually spot on. Maybe before we go to the comments that are quite interesting, it is also fascinating to realize that the Canada's New Food Guide, it also talks about hydration, for us to drink water. And water is what is recommended as the drink of choice. So for the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to say that when it comes to hydrating yourself, I'll just recommend water, things that are there, naturally available. And the observation was spot on about fruits and vegetables. The whole half, the left-hand side, is fruits and vegetables. I was actually talking to Judy the other day about, we always say that it's strong as an ox, right? The ox, the reason why it's strong, it is because it pulls the plow, it feeds on greens, and it drinks water. That's why it's so strong. So, fruits and vegetables, getting ourselves hydrated, and of course, we need to include our whole grain foods. Your bottom right hand side of the plate, you've got your whole grain foods there. And of course, you've got your proteins, the top right-hand side. So this is what is being recommended. And if we do these things, we will mitigate the risk of stress.
So, Costa, I have a question.
Yeah,
And
sure.
back to the food plate. So, one person mentioned no meat, and I see there is meat there, but very
Actually,
small
yes.
amounts.
There is meat at your top right-hand side, and yeah.
Yeah. So, is this recommendation now lesser protein than before?
Well, there's a lot of evidence about a lot of protein kind of predisposing us to certain illnesses, and of course, too much meat is not really good for your health. So there is somewhat a reduction on protein, and what has been increased is the vegetables and the fruits. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our other comment is varied proteins such as cheese and legumes. So I'm guessing from the response that substituting some of the meat for other things like legumes and eggs, that kind of protein.
Yeah, because if you we will actually have more discussion about that, because those are very important points there. And protein, if you come to think of it, there are some naturally occurring protein rich foods that we can eat, because where does meat is beef. Where does it get protein from? So we're getting protein in its secondary form, because there are some legumes and other foods that are rich in protein. And if we reduce a lot of beef and just take the naturally appearing proteins, that will help us a lot. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just gonna go to our next slide here. The other part, which is the last part of just towards the end of our presentation, is meditation and mindfulness. So for those of you that are spiritual and engage in meditation and even mindfulness as well, these have been found to be very effective in reducing stress. Especially some people, they like to do this in the morning when you wake up, when you just want to get yourself grounded, getting ready for your day. You engage in some meditation. And there's one person that I know that did in the whole thesis, the whole dissertation, PhD in neuroplasticity. And they were looking at how the brain is positively affected by, mindfulness and meditation, and how you reduce your stress and be able to function by engaging in these in these processes. It helps you with the grounding and relaxation, of course, and you connect with your emotions. You get to understand your feelings, what you're experiencing, what you're going through, and that helps to clear your thought processes. And by so doing, you're reducing the stress. The last point there, start by stopping. I'd like that to sink a little bit. What I'm referring to here is that we always start the day and just hit the ground running. But you've got to start by stopping and reflecting. This helps you to organize your day, to organize your thought processes, and be able to streamline what you're going to do for the day. So you've got to, first of all, stop, pause, evaluate, think, process, and then you can start. If you just hit the ground running, you'll realize that, just a couple of hours into the day, you have left out certain things and you're becoming overwhelmed, you're becoming stressed. So that's just a tip that I'd like to give you there. So as I mentioned before, the focus really, when you look at, maybe let's say someone is getting discharged from hospital, the focus is on supporting the patient, supporting the person that requires care, and not looking after the caregiver. And also, what causes stress amongst carers is the lack of knowledge and understanding of available, funding and specialist services. You just find yourself, supporting your loved one, and you're not able to work, and you end up spending a lot of time at home supporting your loved one. And there's also lack of knowledge and expertise. If you're at home and someone, maybe let's say they've got dementia, you don't know how to communicate with them. And as much as you love them, but you don't know how you can communicate with them. Or maybe someone has got some malnutrition of some sort. That word became a mouthful. And then you don't really know what kind of food they can have and how you can advise them, and things like that. That's what really causes people to become quite stressed, and of course reduced income and loss of work hours because of caregiving at home. This is one of the ways stress really escalates. So managing stress, really, we're looking at you need to seek specialized support, and AHS and social services, they've got some packages that they can arrange for someone who requires care at home, because there's a drive now of reducing people that can be in hospital, well, reducing number of people in hospital so that they can at least be cared for at home if it's felt that it's safe. So we just, we think it's a really good approach, because due to COVID and the rest of it, if people can be cared for at home, it's much better. And attending to your self-care, first of all, make sure that your cup is full before you try to serve someone else. Look after your health, look after your well-being, and by doing that, you are in a better position to help someone else. Develop a routine and plan with the person you care for. It's very important. Communication and agreeing on what can be done, it is really, really important. So we're just coming to an end here. Just to reiterate what Judy mentioned about Best Option Health Services, we provide online counseling services, and we just launched a Better at Home package, which really supports carers at home and making sure that people live at home, they've got their private space, they've got autonomy, they're able to function independently. And we also provide online companionship, which was kind of an interactive face-to-face support process, but now we provide it online. You can just arrange for someone to be given a call during the day just to curtail that boredom. And we also have ongoing family support. So